Hi, welcome back to Two Minds Unfiltered.
And today we're talking about Andrea Yates.
Yes.
Yeah, this one's pretty chilling.
This is a dark one, so be advised.
So yeah, this talks about a lot of, mental illness, so beware. It's a pretty heavy topic
It
on
is,
it.
yeah.
So
It is, if you don't know the case, there's, it's just it's surrounded by a lot of speculation whether she was actually insane or not. It deals with the idea of guilty by not reason of insanity.
no, you're
No,
right.
yeah,
It is
not
guilty.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I said reason, or I said guilty not by reason of insanity.
Yeah.
And
No, but it is not guilty by
reason of insanity.
Yeah.
So that is, there's not too much surrounding like the murders itself, but it delves deep into her mental state prior to the murders, and it is very disturbing. So we do have viewer discretion is highly advised for this one.
Yeah, and if you're struggling with mental health, there's always hotlines and places for you to go for help and stuff like that. So
yes, so we will link that, or we will put that in the description.
Yes,
but there are resources out there.
Yes, don't ever feel like you're alone and stuff like that when it comes to mental health.
Yes, so I guess
just a little fair warning because this one, it's not like it's. I mean, I guess it's pretty chilling because with who the deaths deal with.
Yeah.
But it's very heavily it's very heavy on the mental health of, an individual that was crying for help.
Yeah. Oh, this is stable now.
Not if you go back there.
What am I stuck on?
Oh. My God. So, I haven't really heard anyone. That was a crack.
That was the floor.
Okay.
So if I disappear, you'll know where I went. Should we get started? Andrea Pia Yates, or Kennedy, which was her maiden name, was born on July 2nd of 1964. She was born in Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. She was the youngest of 5. And for a long time, she suffered from bulimia and depression all throughout her teens.
Yep.
So, already starting off, she's showing signs of mental illness.
Well, yeah, because their family, it was notorious. I think it was like 3 out of the 5 had mental illnesses.
Yeah.
And they thought she skipped it because she wasn't showing signs, but she was hiding it.
Right.
From them and stuff. Because she told her friend that she wanted to unalive.
At 17,
yes. But her parents are Jutta Karen Kohler, I think is how you pronounce their name. She was a German immigrant, and then Andrew Emmett Kennedy, or his parents were immigrants from Ireland. They were Catholic, but she wasn't very religious. She didn't really ever practice much of that.
And they were kind of dismissive with her mental illness. I mean, she didn't talk about it, but think about this, right? So she graduated from Milby High School in 1982 at the top of her class. So she was I was on a roll.
You were doing so well until you weren't.
So she was the valedictorian, and she was also captain of the swimming team and an officer in the NHS, which is National Honor Society for those of you that don't know. So she was
a star student.
Yeah, she really was. Yeah. So it's like, when you think of people like that, you're like, oh, well, they have everything good in their life. So
they would never go down a bad path because they have the perfect spick span life.
Exactly. But honestly, those people are they can be it's like Robin Williams.
Well, yeah, because, first of all, not even just that, where they seem like they have the best life. Sometimes those with the best life or the best academics have so much pressure on them to keep that up. And that takes a toll.
I mean, because it said in the article, she was the valedictorian of her class, but I think it said that it was a class of 608 something, or 80 something students. It was a big class. Yeah. I graduated in a class of 350, 400, and that's a big class.
She also completed a 2-year pre-nursing program at the University of Houston, I believe, while she was still University of Houston. That's where she graduated.
Pre-nursing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was
She
looking at
took
this one.
yeah
The
she took a
registered
program, I believe, while she was in high school, because usually you do that when you're
Right.
your senior year in high school.
Right, you can like specialize or
Yeah, you can take college classes.
For those of you that don't know what that is or what that looks like in the modern day, that would be like New Visions. My school had New Visions, so essentially what you would do is it's almost like an internship. You still get your senior year like credits for graduation and stuff like that, but you're also out in like the field doing whatever you're doing. So for like our New Visions, we had 5 different programs, I believe, or 4. So what you would do is you would do coursework. It was all at a college level. Yeah. But you would do coursework for school, but you would also, it would be focused on like medical or business, education, whatever program you were in. So they're very competitive.
It was like you're getting exposed to like a pre-college type deal.
Yeah, like I said, like an internship. You get experience because you're put in. So for medical, since she was in nursing, you would get to do rounds in different locations. So ER, like trauma, like all these different areas.
Yeah, to see which one that fit you best and stuff like that.
So it's a good program.
It is, but it's really hard to get into those programs.
I'm aware. I didn't get into the program.
Sorry, didn't mean to bring up past trauma on that one.
But aside from that tangent, we just needed to explain kind of how that works. I mean, obviously it's different in the 80s. That's just a modern day example of what that would kind of look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget, each school does things differently as well, no matter what time it is.
Exactly. So from 1986 until 1994, she worked as an RN at the University of Texas MD Center at Anderson Cancer Center.
Yeah. Like, she is a smart cookie.
Yeah. She was a mentally ill cookie.
Well, speaking of husband, so while she was, I believe while she was working as a registered nurse,
I think so.
she was in an apartment complex, and this is where she met her husband,
Rusty Yates.
Yes, Rusty Yates, which that's probably what we'll call him because that's his nickname.
Rusty.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a NASA engineer. Bougie.
And he worked on the actual ship. Like, he had a really important job.
Yeah. She met him in the summer of 89.
Yes. They both lived at the Sunscape Apartments in, I believe, Houston, Texas.
Anyway.
So apparently his first impression of her, which I see it as a red flag, but also, you know, from outside perspective, and I hope everyone would say this red flag, but he stated that his first impression of her was that she seemed to float on the water.
I did see that.
Yeah, because she would swim at the, communal swimming pool, and he said that she was floating on the water and laying out in a form-fitting bikini, so it caught his attention. So he liked her for her body first. Her hot body is what he was basically saying. And apparently, he tried to make a move on her, like adamantly trying to make a move on her, and she
Like
he was trying to be like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like I'm Russell,
What is he in a pile of leaves?
Huh?
What is he in a pile of leaves? Sorry, again with my dad jokes. Yeah, but this is a heavy episode.
I know, buddy.
We gotta add a little fun.
That's fine.
Oh no!
God. Anyway.
Yeah.
I literally swear to God, as soon as the camera turns on, it's like a switch turns on in your body.
I know.
So basically, his advancements did not perform well. She literally wanted nothing to do with him. She was kind of like, yeah, no. She's like, I know my worth, and I've been single for this long. Yeah, no, I don't care. It almost reminds me of like when Dahlia was like,
A Black Dahlia.
yeah, sorry, or
Elizabeth.
when she was kind of like, polite, but like, okay, like I'm you can go now, I don't really care that
Like,
much.
she didn't really give him the time of day.
No, I'm not flirting back with you.
I'll acknowledge that you
Exist?
have like made an like a interest you haven't made. Oh.
It's like, oh, you're cute. Then he kind of went away a little scorned, but inevitably he was like, okay, well, I tried.
Right, yeah.
Basically, a little while later, one night she took herself to a nice dinner, because
By herself.
yeah, just treating herself to a nice dinner. She dressed up a little bit, went to this nice restaurant.
I'm gonna see myself out. Go. Get out.
Yeah.
You get out. This is my show now.
No, you're the one that can't keep it together, Gassy. Literally have not been able to.
I felt that one coming in though, and I was like, oh, that's a good one.
So basically, while she was having this nice dinner by herself, she looked around and she noticed there was a bunch of couples around her because, it was a nicer restaurant. And something kind of clicked her head. She's like, it's been a while. I've been on my own. She was older and stuff like that. She was probably around, 26 or something like that. But she's like, you know what? She's like, I could, she realized that maybe she does deserve someone herself. She was like, I'm looking around all these couples and I'm starting to feel a little lonely. She's like, I deserve a companion, right?
Yeah.
And so basically she kind of mustered up this courage.
Hey, I held it in.
She actually decided that she was going to make the first move because obviously she originally rejected him, so he wasn't probably going to try again.
Right. Well,
Well, some do, but like usually after you get a clear
no.
most of the time after you get a clear no,
You're
they
pretty much
usually-
done, yeah.
You don't want to get rejected again. That's probably the worst case scenario. She concocted this flimsy story to basically provide a justification to talk to him. And since they lived obviously in the same apartment complex, she just waltzed right up to his door. And
Good for
started
her.
talking to him and stuff like that. And then they started dating. And this all happened in October of 1989. So.
Indeed. They soon moved in together afterwards, and they were married on April 17th of 1993.
Yes. He was a very devout Christian.
Yes.
Yes, he attended Auburn University.
Oh, yeah.
On a ROTC scholarship. I don't know what the specific name for that is.
It's like a military thing, isn't it?
He became president of the campus Methodist youth group because his grandpa was a Methodist preacher.
So, ROTC stands for Reserve Officers Training Corps.
Oh, okay, so it is something with the military.
Yeah, I thought so.
Gotcha. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is the best part of the show. Just us. Cheers. So basically, while he was in college, he met this guy named Michael Warnecki. I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah. I couldn't see from that far.
Once he met these people, man, some of their views started to change. Do you know about this couple?
No.
Okay, so a two-tone. Yeah, he kind of became friends with these people.
Okay.
Obviously later they claimed that, they weren't that close with each other, but like bullshit.
It's because they just don't want to be associated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because this guy was he messed up. He was part of a big Catholic family. And I don't even know what practice he was, because they were Christians, but they were like these types that would go out into the crowds, like public areas, and like have those signs and like scream the scripture at people.
Oh, they were like evangelists.
Yes, that's exactly what they were. Thank you. Their belief was that their family was the only ones that were going to go to heaven because they raised their kids the best way through God and stuff like that, and every other person was doomed. Christians were doomed. No matter if you went to church, if you were saved, you were doomed. He was the only one, him and his family were the only ones that were allowed to go to heaven from God himself. He was friends with Rusty, and so they would meet up and they would hang out, stuff like that. And obviously, while he was with Andrea, she would come along and stuff like that, and she kind of started getting circled into this.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Basically, she started getting in with all of them. She didn't really ever, like, fully get into it like they were, because she was kind of, like, behind the scenes. She was kind of shyish. She didn't speak too much. But it started getting really bad when she had her first kid, because Michael would start critiquing her mothering skills and telling her, "You're a bad mother. You're getting these kids doomed. They will never end up in heaven."
Rusty also, he was very, as described by Andrea's mother, he was very controlling.
Yes.
Like, she let him make all the family decisions.
Yep.
Like, she followed his lead.
Yep.
And he basically was like, in a quote, they combined. Pretty much. Mm-hmm. He basically was like, we are gonna seek to have as many babies as nature allowed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you want a big family, that's fine. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, for you to push the idea that, like...
Well, yeah, because she
knew that she had issues.
Yeah, and not even just that, but she left her job to become a mother.
Yeah, he basically was like, you're gonna be a stay-at-home mom, pretty much. With his kind of job, he's gonna make a lot of money.
Yes, but I'm just saying that she decided to leave her job to become...
the best mother. She wanted to be the pinnacle mother.
Yes.
Like, she homeschooled her kids. Like, she wanted to be the best mother that she could be to give her children the best outcome. Yeah.
So, to reel it back a little bit, after that quote of, having as many babies as nature allowed, or some other quotes would say that he said that God would allow.
Right.
They bought a 4-bedroom house in Friendswood, Texas. During their wedding, I found this out. So, sometimes when it comes to certain religions, with a veil...
Oh,
they'll have the veil cover their face because they're a virgin bride, it's pure. And then they unveil them as, like, a giving away, Well, apparently, since they were already living together before they got married, she was already kind of in that state of, like, I'm unpure. That's another thing. That's... Anyway, but yeah, no, so she's, as you can see, like, by the time she had even gotten married to him, the control he had over her, even just religiously.
Right.
The abuse of that was already starting.
And here's my thing. Well, don't sound too uninterested. Mm-hmm. If he's as devout of a Christian as he claims that he is, I understand that you have needs.
I know where you're going with this.
I understand that. But, in the scripture, right? Mm-hmm. It's very, like, put out there that premarital sex is wrong.
Yeah.
So if he's as, like, if he's so, like, focused on being pure and, like, having, if he's as godly as he claims that he is.
Yeah.
You would have had the restraint there, pal.
I know, but the way that he was describing her when you first met her, are we surprised?
No.
Yeah.
But
he was a bit of a sleaze bag. I'm sorry, but he was.
It's amazing. He was a bit of a sleaze bag.
He was. He's a nasty man.
Yeah, he was. She was in kind of a remission. Like, she would get, like, her episodes, of depression after every child that she had, but they weren't as bad as the last time after her 5th kid, I believe.
Well, yeah, because she was told not to have that one.
Actually, doctors had warned her against it because she was just having so much, like, having so many, like, issues with her mental health
after each child.
Mm-hmm. And so after the birth of her 4th child, Luke, her depression resurfaced.
Yep.
And on June 16th of 1999, Rusty found her shaking and chewing her fingers. Mm-hmm. You would think, as a loving husband, you would be like,
my wife needs help.
Yeah, we need to get you the help that you need.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, he's watching this progress after every single kid.
Also, mind you, they are living in a small trailer. This is a family of, what? Five?
At this point, yeah.
Living in a small trailer who was given to them by Michael. So, when they got their first house, perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. They had 4-bedroom house. Pretty good start,
exactly.
To start a family that he wanted. And then he had to move away because of his job. And so they relocated to Florida, and they lived in a small trailer park.
Yeah.
Not great, but better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they moved back to Houston and purchased a GMC motorhome by Michael himself. Now, I don't know if you know what a GMC motorhome looks like, but they're tiny. Yeah. That literally has barely even of a bedroom in it. So
it's like a tiny home.
Yes.
It's basically like an RV.
Yes. And
with 5 kids.
You wanted to put 5 kids in there with someone who is clinically depressed after having kids. And you're going to put her in a small, confined space with all these kids that she's taking care of for you.
She left her job to be a stay-at-home mom,
yep.
So she cannot get away from it.
She loved your kids with everything, despite what she did.
He's basically just pushing this aside and saying, God wants us to have as many babies as we possibly can. And he's going against the medical advice that she's been given because her providers are seeing what this is doing to her. And they're like, no, you can't do this anymore.
By the time she had the 4th kid, she had already been in the...
She'd been hospitalized.
Twice for trying to unalive herself. Mm-hmm. The first time, how did she do... Oh, she took too many pills.
Yep.
And then the second time, she held a sharp object to her neck and threatened that he needed to unalive her because she couldn't do it anymore.
Because she was afraid of hurting her kids.
Yeah.
So he was aware. He was well aware of the fact that she was having these, delusions and paranoid, ideologies. And he was just kind of like, you gotta pop out more kids.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, but then when they would get to these medical places, he would be seen as, the loving husband that's like, help my wife, she's really sick, I'm concerned for her.
Right, but then in the background...
As soon as they get home, he's kind of like, okay, back to normal.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we only have 4 kids, you gotta snap.
You need to get another one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one cooked already? Okay. Yeah. Come on.
Well, not even just the kid part, too, but the medication.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, because she was on a medication that worked for a while.
It says here that, after she, attempted her unalivement, she was hospitalized, and she was prescribed antidepressants. Mm-hmm. And then, like you said, that she, begged him to unalive her again.
Yes.
And once again, right, she was hospitalized, and she was given a ubiquitous amount of medications, right?
Yes.
Including Haldol, which is an antipsychotic drug.
Yes, but that was the only one that was helping her. And
exactly.
She would get a dose every 3 months injected because they found out she was not taking her pills.
Right, she was inconsistent with her pills, and with antipsychotics, you have to
be on a disciplined schedule. You cannot just go... Sorry. You cannot just go cold turkey off and on and off and on because they don't work like that.
Yeah. Your psyche is very fragile.
Exactly, and the minute you mess that up, over.
And then she noticed that her condition improved immediately because they were treating the right thing.
Yeah, and he even stated, he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing how much it's improved you.
Yeah. After this, hospitalization, he moved the family into a small house.
Yeah.
For the sake of her health. Mm-hmm. Mind you, they have 5 kids now. A small house. Mm-hmm. Pal, you need a bigger house.
Yeah, and it's not like he was doing bad. He had a good job.
Right. I'm like, oh, are you really that cheap that you will not buy a house where your mentally ill wife that is struggling.
Literally struggling, was calling out for help.
And she's been hospitalized multiple times.
At least 4 by this point.
Right.
Yeah.
You're still gonna make her live in a confined space?
With all of her kids right there.
That she has to, you can go off to work.
She literally left every day. Yeah. Well,
sleazebag.
she was told by her doctor she should be on 24 watch at all times.
Well,
so
yeah.
someone has to be around her all the time. And he was just like, okay. And then never actually really did that.
But here's the thing, right? Okay, so with any kind of unalivement attempt, and you are hospitalized for that attempt,
Yep.
first of all, if you're hospitalized, you are on 24-hour surveillance.
Yep.
And you cannot be alone.
Nope.
With
Ever.
Yeah, you have to have surveillance.
Especially if you're telling them that you may be a danger to your children and anyone else around you.
Exactly. That is an immediate threat. I am getting heated.
But that's okay, because they robbed this girl so many times.
The system is flawed.
But the thing is, it wasn't even just her system. Her support system was so flawed.
All the systems are flawed.
I know.
But she's making it known. And Rusty's supposed to be the one that is like, I got you. I'm here for you.
I'm the one that is the stable mind, so let me pick it up for you.
Exactly.
Wouldn't it not do that?
And he's like, if you are told by doctors you need 24-hour surveillance.
That means 24-hour surveillance.
Yes, you need to do that.
Either you need to do that or you need to get someone to do that. Because I know their parents would come and watch sometimes.
Right, and that's what led to the murders.
But you know what he did? He said, and he even confessed this at a family dinner one time. I don't know if you read this. He said, "Oh yeah, I would watch her for 24 hours, but then every, slowly I started to go out for maybe 30 minutes. And then I would go out for an hour, and then I'd go out for a little bit longer." He's like, because I didn't want her to be so dependent on me. I didn't want her to be so dependent. I wanted her to have her independency, so she didn't have to need me for everything. I'm like,
She's not in the right state of mind.
No, and the thing is that she's not being needy because she's just being clingy. That's literally the doctor's orders.
Exactly.
So she could literally be telling you, no, I don't want you to watch me. Too fucking bad. Yeah. And the thing is, the fact that he literally admitted this to the family, that he was leaving intervally, like occasionally, over time, longer and longer, and leaving her more and more and more alone. I'm like, are you stupid?
And like, it seems so she got those antipsychotic meds.
Yeah.
And she seems stable because they were working. And from personal experience, when you take meds and they start to work, you're like, oh, maybe I don't need them anymore. Like, I'm feeling a lot better. Like, I can do without them.
Well, yeah, every time she would leave, she's like, no, I feel better.
Yeah, because they would get her stable in the facility. And then upon release, she'd be like, I feel better. And that's why she couldn't take drugs, like the pills, because she would just be like, I don't need them.
Yeah. And while this is all happening, by the way, they're all still friends with this one weird family, the ones that are, telling all of these things. They would meet up for family dinners and stuff. And Michael would constantly tell Andrea how horrible of a mother she was, and that her kids are never going to amount to anything, and they're going to go straight to hell, and that they're destined to die horrible deaths. And she thought she was the worst mother because she blamed them for being bad. Right. She never told them that, like, you're horrible sons. She was always like, I failed you as a mother, and that's why you're so misbehaved, is because I failed you. Right. And so he was planting this seed in her head for years.
Yeah.
Because she apparently even said that she saw visions of how her sons would die.
Oh, yeah. It was almost like the Final Destination. She became obsessed with what the Bible told her. And she took it to the extreme. And she focused solely on the biblical verse from Luke 17, verse 2. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown in the sea than that he should cause one of the little ones to stumble. And like, she really related to this. This spoke to her.
This was her
because of those seeds that Michael was planting.
Exactly, yeah.
Because she was like so convinced that, like, well, not only that, but like, She was convinced that TV commercials on like
That they were talking to her.
Like they were calling her like a fat pig. And
yeah, because she was feeding her kid candy. She said that one time there's this commercial that came on, and that the TV looked right at her and said, "Stop having your kids eat so much candy."
Yes.
And she was like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, and she was convinced that the house was bugged and like there were cameras everywhere watching how she parented.
Satan was watching her, and the fact is that she was scared to tell anyone because she didn't want Satan to like hear about it.
Yeah, well, she was convinced that, the devil consumed her. And that if she, continued the way she was, that all of her kids were basically damned.
Yeah, she said one of them was doomed to end up getting hit by a car.
She, let me see.
Oh, yeah.
She believed that her children would never be right. This is a quote from the Andrea Yates case. One of the I think it's the forensic psychiatrist that worked on the case.
Yeah, he was on this case.
Yeah. So she believed that her children would never be right because she had ruined them due to her defective mothering. She thought that her son Luke, who would become a mute homosexual prostitute, and her son John would become a serial murderer. She foresaw that her son Noah would die a tragic death, and that her son Paul would be hit by a truck.
Yep.
She was convinced that all of her children would be punished and burned in hell.
And she even thought that there was like vans outside the house that were like watching for them.
Because she saw one van.
One white van.
Yeah, parked around her home.
Yep, so she was convinced that they were watching her at all times.
Yeah, and then she was convinced that the house was bugged and that, there were cameras everywhere and, and then the voices in her head were telling her that she was a terrible mother, like she was ruining her children. She was damning them to hell.
But I will say, though, while this was all happening, before she even, like, did the killings and stuff, those 2 times that she, was trying to unalive herself, she was actually trying to fight back from the urge to kill them.
Right, because she thought about this for a very long time, and she kept it to herself because she was like, I don't want to hurt my kids, but I want to save them. And she actually kept this, I did read this, she kept it from her providers.
Yep.
And she just never told them that she was having these thoughts. And so a lot of people look at it from the outside and say, it was premeditated. She was planning this out. And it's like, it might have been premeditated in a sense, but I don't think that it was like a cold and calculating premeditation.
She didn't plan how she was going to. She just had the thoughts in her head of doing it for a while.
Yes.
I will say, though, before she did it, she previously had filled up a bathtub of water.
Right.
And her husband asked, like, why did you do that? It was like 4 p.m. During the day. She's like, I might need it later.
Yeah, exactly.
And she didn't. She actually fought it that day, and she couldn't do it. But that was, 2 days before?
I think so.
That she actually did it?
She fought this for a while, but, she, really fought this, urge, after she came, after she read over, Luke 17, verse 2, and it says here that she struggled with this idea of taking her children's lives for, 1 to 2 months, and it's a hard battle, to watch someone struggle like that. And it's like, yes, she did a terrible thing and she knows, she knew that it was wrong.
Yeah, she literally called the police knowing that she would get arrested and executed. She wanted that.
Yeah. And so she knows in the eyes of the law, that's wrong. It's wrong to take someone else's life. She knows that. But
she thought it was the best possible outcome, at least for her kids, and so that she could get free from the Satan inside of her body.
Exactly.
Overall. I will say, before obviously all this happened, she came under the care of Dr. Muhammad Saeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate him. I hate him so much.
He should not have a license.
No, he should have gotten time in jail. Because I believe he was truly the one that pushed her over the edge. I mean, first of all, he misdiagnosed her because, mind you, she had these records from her old previous, therapist, doctors, both, about her diagnosis and her psychosis,
And it's in your record.
It's an open record. He literally had access to the file. He just refused to ever open it.
That she'd been hospitalized for severe mental illness.
Yeah, he dismissed all of that. Never even called them to check up on it. Never
Right.
even opened her old records to see what they treated her with, what they diagnosed her with, because he diagnosed her with bipolar. Huh?
She had severe depression, and depression is different than bipolar.
Yeah.
She never had those manic episodes, because she never was like, she just never had that.
Yep.
And severe, like, psychosis. And so for him to diagnose her with bipolar, I understand that bipolar 1 you can experience psychotic symptoms and
Or like
things,
schizophrenic symptoms.
right, with bipolar 1, but that does not mean that she has bipolar disorder. You should follow the course of treatment. These are trusted professionals that diagnosed her before. And for him to diagnose her with something else and then treat her for something else, and he removed her off of the antipsychotics.
Yeah, the ones that were, doing her good.
Yep.
Um,
A couple weeks before the murder.
well, okay, actually, so he took her off at first, like
Yeah.
completely, put her on the bipolar medicine,
Yeah.
and then eventually put her back onto Haldol.
Haldol?
Haldol, yeah. He put her back on that, but mind you, at one point, she was on the highest dose that you could have of this medicine before.
Yeah.
And she would take it every 3 months by injection.
Right.
When he gave her back that medicine, he gave her 3 times the limited amount that you could give, and for her to take it only twice a day. I'm like, I'm sorry. What?
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, but then when he put her on that one medication, the maximum that you could have is 45 milligrams. He put her on 65 milligrams. 65. Like, that could have been
that could have killed her.
Yep. And it was for even the wrong diagnosis, too. It was the wrong medication.
Yeah, those are mood stabilizers. That was right before the murders. And so to take her off of her antipsychotic meds, you're really messing with something right there. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you need, no. Like, she is not bipolar. It blows me away that he would even think that, because she had a diagnosis already.
And they said something how, like, you can't... He like tried, because when you are on that level of a drug and for that severe of a problem, the waning process to get off a drug takes at least months.
Oh, yeah.
He took her off, or weaned her off, in 4 days.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who gave this guy a license?
It's mind-blowing, because, like, there are, I will say, there are some points when you can stop a medication cold turkey. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to, but if it's giving you terrible side effects that are impacting your health, yes, you can stop it cold turkey. Mm-hmm. But for a medication like that treats the psyche itself and, like, stabilizes whatever the hell's going on up there,
Yep.
you cannot just stop that. I don't even know.
So basically, he prescribed her this drug that was called, they had the nickname, it was called California Rocket Fuel. I don't know if you recognize it. It was a combination of, I'm going to butcher these names.
Mirtazapine and venlafaxine.
Basically, it was a combination of those, and it was widely publicized as an effective regimen for treatment-resistant depression. But it was, like, deadly.
Yes.
To the brain.
And it basically eats your brain away.
Yeah. And basically, apparently the starting dosage was 37.5 to 75 milligrams once per day, and the maximum was 225. They gave her 300, mind you.
Yeah.
So, first of all, overdosed her, practically. Mirtazapine dosage that does doses higher than 45 milligrams daily aren't recommended. They gave her 60 or 65, something of that sort. Um,
Yeah.
that's just, I'm sorry, but that's just malpractice.
So essentially, he caused her to kill her kids because
Yep.
he removed her from something that was actually helping.
Yep.
I mean, yes, it is on her. She neglected to tell them, like her providers, about these thoughts that she was having. And I'm gonna put another disclaimer here. This gets dark. We are covering the murders of her children. And I will read you the excerpt from this case. So please be advised, it is dark.
It is very dark, yes.
So just putting out a warning if you would like to skip this part. It doesn't go into immense depth, but it does go into some. So like I said, like we had said before, she was debating with this, like really struggling with this, for about 1 to 2 months prior to the murder. Like really, really struggling. But on June 20th of 2001, the Yates children ranged in age from 6 months to 7 years. Noah was 7, John was 5, Paul was 4, Luke was 2, and Mary was 6 months old. Rusty left for work about 9 a.m., and Mrs. Yates didn't expect her mother-in-law to come assist her until 10 a.m. She reported that she drowned her 5 children in no particular order between 9 and 10 a.m., mind you. 1 hour
1 hour.
to
That's all
drown
it took.
5 people.
Yep. Yeah.
That silence was needed. 1 hour. After drowning each child, she placed the dead child on the double bed in the master bedroom. She placed her infant Mary in the crook of John's arm so he could protect her in the afterlife, because John had been a particularly good big brother. Noah, age 7, was the most difficult to drown because he was the strongest. Noah managed to get his head above water and say, "I'm sorry, Mommy." He was left in the bathtub.
Yep. That's where he was found.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I wonder, did she leave him there intentionally, or did she just not have enough time?
I think she might have just left him.
And then what was even more chilling was the call to the police.
Yeah.
She was calm.
She was calm. After drowning her children, Mrs. Yates called 911 and requested that a police officer be sent to her home. She then called her husband Rusty and said, "It's time," referring to the biblical prophecy in Revelations about Armageddon. When the police arrived, Mrs. Yates told them, "I killed my kids," and led them to the room where her 4 dead children.
Yeah.
With her 4 dead children.
When she was on the phone with the police, they would ask, like, okay, like, what's your emergency? And she's like, I just need them to come. And they're like, okay, but we need more specific. Like,
Right.
why do you need us to come? And she's like, I just need you guys to get here. And they're like, okay. And then they're like, is your husband home? And they're like, no. And then they're like, because they're thinking maybe that it's like a domestic dispute.
Right.
And she's like, no, you just need to get here.
Then it says, Mrs. Yates believed that Satan was within her and tormented her and the children. She thought that after she drowned her children, she would be arrested and executed.
Yeah.
She indicated that Satan would be executed along with her. She believed that it was right to drown her children because she wanted to save their souls and didn't want them to be in Satan's hands.
Yeah. So it was kind of like the better out of the worst
sacrificial, like, I'm going to kill them out of love because then
I don't
they
want
can't.
them to get hurt by him.
Exactly.
It was almost like the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
In her mind, not justifying it, because obviously
No.
either way was bad.
I just want to go back to that.
Yeah.
The "I'm sorry, Mommy." That gave me chills.
Well, yeah, because he got chased down by her.
Yeah.
No, he saw Mary dead in the bathtub, and he.
Well, yeah,
he
he
asked
saw her. He saw what she'd done.
He said, and he was like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And she saw him, and he ran away because obviously terrified.
Well, yeah, because why wouldn't you be terrified? Yeah.
And so she chased him down and grabbed him. She said he was the hardest one to go because he was older and he was stronger than the rest. Which is just like means that they all struggled.
Yeah.
The fact that she counted on the fact that he was the strongest to resist.
And the fact that he, like, could get his head above water enough to say, I'm sorry, mommy.
Now, I read a lot of chilling cases.
Yeah, I do too.
That one got me.
I just got chills right now.
That one got me. And
just, like, because they're so innocent, they don't understand why their mother is doing this to them.
Yeah, because the thing is, the last person they're seeing is the person who raised them with love.
Right,
doing
because,
this to them.
you know, he's like, why would she hurt me? She's my mom.
He was, what, 7 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The oldest. And it's just like...
Yeah.
Like, I understand that she had severe mental issues, but you would think that if you heard your baby...
You would snap out of it.
Right.
Yeah. That's just, I guess, to show how far she was so gone in her delusion and her mental health, because even that
her paranoid beliefs.
Her back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in her right,
and
she
it's Michael's fault.
Yeah. Well, yes, it is. Yes. Michael and the doctor.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the doctor, if you want to hate him even more, here's a quote he said to her one time. This boiled my blood. And I think I know which quote I'm about to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because she looked at him in absolute crisis, right? This was when she was literally in the facility.
Right.
She was literally pleading for help. Tears in her eyes, looking up to him, almost childlike, like saying, help me. I don't want to kill my kids.
Right.
And he goes, and I quote, you need to help me out with more positive attitude. Chin up.
It's like telling a depressed person to be happy. That is the equivalent of it.
But, like, how is she supposed to help you when she's not even mentally able to help herself?
No.
Why do you think she's coming to seek out your help?
Why do you think she's in the institution?
She cannot help herself. You are the professional.
Right.
You are supposed to be helping her, not her.
No, and she, she's at the facility because she was at the point where she was ready to take her own life.
Yeah.
And she's asking you. She's pleading with you.
Literally crying.
Right.
On her knees.
And it's like, they almost like brushed aside the idea that she was gonna kill her kids. And it's like, if someone is coming to you as a provider, right? If you're a provider, and someone comes to you and says, I want to kill this person, there are protocols in place for you to do an evaluation and determine whether they are an imminent threat or not.
Yep.
And if they are, they need to be sent to an institution or be kept in that institution. And for them to just brush aside the idea that she's really struggling, she's begging because she doesn't want to kill her kids.
Literally begging at this point. She was on her last straw of like, I can't fight this anymore.
Exactly.
I need you to help me stop.
It's like the lipstick killer.
Yes, it's like, stop me before I keep killing.
Yes.
I mean, his might have been a little bit less like he didn't ever really try and get help for it. But like, no, she was literally like, she literally tried to take her own life so that she wouldn't have to do this.
Right.
She went to the extremes to herself to try and prolong this. Because she said, for months I was going back and forth whether or not I should do it. She's like, I almost filled up my bathtub many times. Oh my.
That line, when I read that, my heart sank.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you can hear it almost.
Oh, I feel like I can hear her.
I could picture that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was heartbreaking to me because I'm like...
Because I'm picturing these little kids defenseless, especially the 6-month-old. Like, that's a baby.
That is a baby. Just like, I don't know. It's because he actually got to say something before she killed him.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could picture that when I read this, like, this little blurb, I could picture it. He's like getting his head up just enough to be like, like, and he's like got water on his face, and he's like,
and the fact that that's the last thing he said was, I'm sorry. Thinking he did something.
That just broke my heart. My mouth went dry and I got chills. I know.
I almost had to shut my computer for a second.
I paused.
I almost had to text and be like, I don't know if I can do this one, buddy.
I really paused and I was like, I just took a moment of silence because I was like, I needed that to resonate in my brain. That he apologized to her because he thought he did something wrong.
Because when you're a 7-year-old and you're looking up to your mother figure, because it's almost like when you used to get in trouble for something. Right. It's like, I'm sorry, like, I didn't mean to do that, because you come to them to seek for, guidance. They're the parent.
Right.
And he thought something he did was wrong, and that's why he was dying. And the fact that she literally placed them all on the bed, like...
to see them into the afterlife.
Yep. And the fact that she put the youngest, the baby, into the second oldest kid's arms because he was a good big brother and he'd take care of her in the afterlife.
I just got chills.
Sorry.
It's just...
That was not the right time to get it out. Sorry.
I didn't know. I didn't realize that her son got to say something. But imagine sitting in the courtroom on this trial and hearing somebody read that to you.
Especially because she was on good medication at that point.
Right.
And so she was probably a bit more mentally stable-ish. Imagine hearing that back to you as you're sitting there. Because, like, she obviously has to live with this guilt now.
I've, like, watched an interview on, obviously, this case. But I've also watched... her, they went into the facility that she's at, and she's in an institution now. It's, it's crazy, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but the institution that she's at, it's not a locked facility. They can wander the grounds. Mm-hmm. And, the goal of that facility is to help them rehabilitate and understand the magnitude of what they've done to be there.
Yeah.
And, the time that she's been in there, she's regaining that understanding of, like, what her crime consisted of, what she did, and she's learning. She's relearning what she did. And it's, she's starting to grasp that now, and it's just, like, I can't imagine that.
Kind of like you're a kid learning what
right and wrong
crime is. Yeah.
After she was, put on trial, and put through all of, like, the mental...
This was an interesting trial.
It was a big trial.
Well, they, like, repeated it 2 extra times after the first initial one.
Yeah, because it got overturned.
Yeah.
They do say, she knew what she did was wrong.
Well, yeah, she called the police and expected to be
executed.
They even said, they repeat over and over and over again in this report that she knew that it was wrong. She said she knew from the law and God that it was a heinous crime.
Right. When you have a delusion that strong, it's like a compulsion. You cannot... It's like an addiction, right? Think about it. Crack addicts. Or, like, anyone that's addicted to anything. You need that to survive.
Yep.
And for her, that was, she was battling that. Mm-hmm. And it finally won.
Yeah.
That delusion just overtook her.
Yeah. Well, this is... Okay, so...
Well, because she held wild delusional beliefs.
I know. Well, because, like, they were... Some of her delusions were quite crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, she even believed that her mother-in-law was in on this.
Right.
And that was sent by Satan.
Yeah, that she was sent by Satan to, like, critique her and, like, watch her. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of frickin' Michael. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, she probably still would have had delusions to some standard because her psychosis was so severe.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, he planted this seed, because, like, she really was, like, this, I want to be this...
She wanted to be a perfect mother.
Yeah.
Like, she did everything. Like, and that's what came up in the trial was, how could a loving mother drown her kids like this?
Yeah.
And it's not that she didn't love her kids, but she loved them so much that she wanted to save them.
Yeah, she wanted to save them from a worse harm.
Yeah.
That she believed would come for her children if she didn't do anything.
So Dr. Dietz and Dr. Resnick agreed that Mrs. Yates knew that killing her children was against the law. She waited until she was alone with the children because she knew that neither the mother-in-law or her husband would approve of her drowning them.
Obviously
she then
not.
called the police and expected to be arrested and executed.
Yep.
So She knew right from wrong. She was in the state of mind where she knew that that was wrong.
And this is where it got messy because obviously, you know, when they look for the plead for insanity, they look for if they weren't even in the right state of mind to know from right and wrong.
Yep.
But the thing is, she did know from right or wrong, but it was like she was in this trance that she could not get out of this right or wrong. She could have been maybe fighting it in her head, but there was nothing stopping her.
No, they used the evidence. It says here, you know, she believed that she was acting in the best interests of her children. Mm-hmm. And it says Mrs. Yates believed that it was right to drown her kids because she held a delusional belief that her children were not being raised righteously and that they would burn in hell. If she did not take their lives, she faced the psychotic dilemma. Yep. Which is apparent when you look at this case as a whole.
So he said that his diagnosis of Mrs. Yates was that she suffered from a psychosis, schizoaffective disorder. Yes. And so...
Psychosis and schizoaffective disorder. Man, I'm doing that too.
But those are what he diagnosed her with, which, I mean, pretty accurate.
Yes.
Despite, obviously, adding on to, you know, postpartum depression. And also, this kick-started the better understanding of postpartum depression, because they used to call it the baby blues.
Oh, the definition of schizoaffective disorder is a chronic mental illness that involves symptoms of schizophrenia and a mood disorder. Yep. So, while that doctor was wrong in diagnosing her with and only treating bipolar, mm-hmm. I can understand why he thought bipolar, because it is a mood disorder.
Yes, but the thing is, he also didn't add on the the
schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Like, she
was seeing things. It literally says in here,
she would
auditory
see
and visual hallucinations and paranoid delusions.
Exactly. That is the definition of schizophrenia.
Textbook definition.
Yes.
Look it up.
That is what we learn in school.
Yeah.
So.
And major depressive episodes.
Yes.
So.
Which is it's just.
And those two mixed together never really go well. So, obviously.
It also says that, you know, she thought that she was doing the right thing for her children by arranging them to go to heaven while they were still innocent. And quoted by Andrea Yates herself, they had to die to be saved. Mm-hmm. That was her full belief.
Yeah.
And this goes on to my other point, right? Mm-hmm. Mrs. Yates loved her children so much that she was not deterred from saving her children's souls by the fact that she expected to be executed by state of Texas. She believed that because the one and only Satan was within her, that Satan would be executed along with her.
The first trial was messy.
Yes.
So basically, she stated in her audio-taped confession on June 20th, 2001, this is, I believe, after she got arrested, yes. That her children were not developing correctly. But she added that she was not mad at her children because they had not done anything wrong.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of what people were kind of like, oh, she didn't kill for revenge.
No.
She didn't kill because out of anger. She didn't kill because she was mean and mad. She didn't kill because...
She was not even... she wasn't abusive.
No, she never hit those kids.
No.
Oh, okay. First trial, obviously, they were trying to get her to plead guilty.
Right.
They wanted a death sentence, but that didn't hold up in court. Right. So she got life in prison.
Without parole. 40 years. 40 years she could go on parole.
But then that never, obviously, came to be.
I think there were 3 trials.
There's 3 trials in total. Yes. There's one in 2001, one in 2005, and another just a year later in 2006.
Yes.
2006 is finally when it came to a close.
Yes, with an NGRI.
Yes. But basically, so the first one, she just kind of was like life in prison. But then they kind of had to go back.
Well, yeah, because when this first started, you know, everyone was like, she's a calculating killer, like, she needs to be executed, because the death penalty is still legal in Texas. It says about 2/3 of American public favors the death penalty. Yep. In a capital case, each potential juror must agree to impose the death penalty if the facts call for it. Thus, death-qualified juries tend to be more conservative and less likely to find the defendant NGRI. And if you don't know what that is, it's not guilty by reason of insanity.
Yes, because that was so hard because sometimes they would be scared to do that because there were so many false cases of it.
Exactly. So then you sit on death row. You can be executed for nothing, for something you didn't do.
After the first trial, they had to, it was overturned because there was an error by a psychiatric expert employed by the prosecution. So basically, there was a false, testament or something like that?
False witness statement.
Okay, so basically, during cross-examination, Dr. Dietz was asked whether he was a...
No, it was a false testimony. I'm sorry. My
You're
apologies.
good. Whether he was a script consultant for the television show Law and Order. I'm like, oh no. He replied that he was, and then incorrectly volunteered that a Law and Order show had aired shortly before Mrs. Yates' homicides, in which a woman was found insane after drowning her children in a bathtub. This erroneous statement was used by the prosecutor in the cross-examination of a defense psychiatrist. I can't read. And again, in closing arguments. The error came to light after the jury reached a verdict of guilty, but before they deliberated on whether to impose the death penalty.
That's a wrap. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Why'd you hesitate? You literally went. I don't know. No, this is what you did. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. The little squeak. No, this is like, give me your goddamn hand. As soon as you grabbed like she did when I walked away. He was like, I was like, give me your hand.
Your hand! I was like, it felt exactly.
Oh my god.
So then, in 2006, she went on a second trial because the first one was dismissed.
No, keep going.
Not the-
No. Keep going. I'm trying to hold it together so bad.
Okay. So then in the summer of 2006, Yates was on trial for the second time, and was heard by a jury that was not death qualified.
Yeah.
So that first trial was thrown out because of a false testimony.
Yeah, they had to go back into it because then they were like, well,
It's not, yeah.
you
You can't make a ruling on that.
Yeah.
Right. She was uncharged from the first trial.
Yep. And now they were considering the insanity defense.
Yes. So They went for the NGRI. The jury only deliberated for 12 hours and they found her not guilty by reason of insanity. And they said the jury foreman, Todd Frank, stated to the TV interviewer, "We understand that she knew it was legally wrong, but in her delusional mind, we believed that she thought she did what was right."
Yeah.
And I stand by that too. That is correct. Because to her, that was right. She was doing what she thought was best for
She
her
wasn't
children.
doing it because she was vengeful or spiteful or because she had some ulterior motive. She literally was in such a deluded state of mind that
Right.
there was no other right or wrong. Hers was the only one.
Yeah. And she fought with it. She tried to fight those feelings for so long.
Obviously, we're not justifying that she
No.
needed to kill those children. It's just that in the case of others that we've seen when it comes to killing, from knowing right and wrong, like she did know right and wrong, but then she didn't
Right, at the same
wrong
time.
because her right and wrong was altered.
Distorted.
Yeah,
I think they made the right call.
I think so. I think she needed to be institutionalized
Yeah.
because, like, yes, she needed to, be guilty of what she did for her crimes, but she also needed to be helped and medicated
Right.
while knowing what she did was wrong
Which-
and live with those crimes.
The prison system can't provide that. The institution was where she needed to be.
Yeah, because it's not like they treated her like she didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
They let her become her as a person again so that she can feel the guilt
Exactly.
and know what she did was wrong. Because
Right.
at the time, when she was interviewing and giving all these confessions, she was still saying her same things over and over again of like, I did them right. So it's like they needed to get her back to her.
To a normal state.
Yes.
Like a stable, normal state
Yeah, because
of thinking.
how can you take any of her statements seriously when she's not even in the right state of mind?
Right, exactly.
Like,
Like she was sane enough to stand trial, but she was not sane at the time that she committed the crime.
No.
It was almost like a sacrificial thing because for her, she's like, I'm gonna save my kids, and when I get caught, they're gonna kill me,
I'll take the burden of the blame.
and they're gonna kill Satan too, so my kids cannot suffer.
Yes, and so that Satan will never find them. They will
Exactly.
be taken to heaven with God.
It was like that sacrificial, like nature of her, of a mother.
Pretty
Obviously,
much.
she took it to an extreme, and I'm not condoning in any way.
Oh no, what she did was wrong, and it's still
Right.
like a monstrous quality
But I want you to understand where her mind
was at the time of it. She
Yeah.
was literally a void of a human being. She was, I mean,
catatonic.
yeah, she
She
barely
just wasn't
spoke.
there.
She
Yeah.
barely spoke. She would say a few words at a time.
And
The
she would
most
just,
she ever
like-
said was, I'm using it for a later time. That's the most she ever spoke
Right.
in her years of this delusion.
Exactly.
Um,
So
But like, because there's so many different people that always are on the line of like, do we call her a murderer and a monster, or do we call her a murderer but someone who is like in need of help, and that she was just a person with a bad mental illness? So it's like it's kind of controversial when sometimes people are like, obviously, yes, she deserved to get what she did murder her kids.
she needs to experience like a penalty for what she did, and
But a penalty is served for her state.
exactly.
She didn't need to be in death row.
No. And I understand that is a very controversial idea because she took 5 lives. She was convicted of capital murder. 5 counts of capital murder. That is a huge crime.
Especially because they were children. And one was an infant.
Even 1 count of capital murder gets you on death row.
Yeah. She was on 5, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I understand how controversial that is, but it's also you cannot sentence somebody like that's not sane when they commit a crime to the same penalty as someone that is.
Who
Who
killed
wanted to
and
do
wanted
that.
to kill and would keep killing.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, everyone has their own different
Exactly.
opinions on how they take this case. I don't sympathize with her in the sense of because I could never see myself killing kids or
Right.
anything of that. But then I also I sympathize with her old self because she never got the help she needed as her journey went on
Right.
for this to never then happen.
Exactly.
Because they said if she had gotten this, if she had gotten a good support system, her husband helped her, she got good doctors, she probably would have never killed those kids.
Exactly.
So I sympathize her in the sense of who she could have been if this was all solved years ago.
And it's like, it breaks my heart that, she went looking for help. And personally, it's hard when it's a vulnerable thing to admit that you need help and to admit that there is something wrong with you and you need to get medical intervention. That is a very hard thing to admit. It took me a long time to admit it myself. And for her to be pleading with doctors and physicians and anyone that was helping her and admitting to those feelings, and for them to be like, meh.
It all goes back to the postpartum depression. Because this case really skyrocketed how people changed their ways of mental illness and postpartum depression, because like I said before all the chaos happened, they used to call it the baby blues and kind of just be like, oh, mothers are just a little sad, but they're fine, they're supposed to be mothers, they're supposed to have these motherly instincts. I'm like, you know how many mothers suffer from postpartum disorder or stress and either take their lives or go through these delusions,
or just like disassociate and like they just distance themselves from the baby.
Yes, they stopped taking care. That's what she did. She stopped taking care of her children, not because she hated them, but because she was literally so beside herself.
Right. Or they resent them, and it's just like it is a severe issue that it's stigmatized.
People kind of put it in the back of their heads because they think once a woman becomes a mother, you don't get to have depression and disorders because you're a mother now. You have to take care of this child. You don't get to have anything wrong with you.
Exactly.
And it's just it was truly sad to see someone that started off with such a good life and that you would never
was
expect.
Struggling so much.
Yes, from literally
she was struggling in the shadows.
Yeah.
Of what was expected of her.
Yeah, and because she was so scared of what she got told, then she never told anyone because she didn't ever think she would be believed.
Right.
And also she didn't want people, her delusion was that, they were working for Satan and that they would tell him and he would come and,
kill her children.
Them. Yeah.
And take them to hell.
Yeah.
Like, she would basically, if she admitted to anything, then she would condemn her own children. The verdict was not guilty by reason of insanity, and she has a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yep.
So
she will never be free. Yeah.
No.
But the thing is, I think it's gonna benefit her.
No, because she'll get the help she needs.
Yes. Now she'll have to live with the guilt for the rest of her life in that facility. But
that's
that's
the punishment. That is the punishment.
That is, and she knew that was going to be the punishment, if not execution.
She might not be, and this is my take on it, right?
Okay.
There are some people that you take away their freedom by locking them behind bars, but when it comes to mental patients, their freedom has already been gone because the freedom of your mind.
Oh, they
have been locked away in their own mind for their entire life. So you don't necessarily need to take away their freedom by locking them away.
Physical freedom, yeah. They've already been imprisoned for their entire lives, or for however long they were, yeah.
Yeah, and so she doesn't need to be in a high security facility. She just needs to get the help that she needs in order to comprehend what she did.
Mm-hmm. And then that's the rest of her life that she has to deal with the guilt.
Exactly.
And, sometimes what they always say is that sometimes living with your own guilt is worse than death. Because she has to live day by day pretty much remembering that she murdered her own kids.
She murdered her pride and joy.
Mm-hmm. And she can't get them back. Even if, she regrets it. Can't get them back.
No.
So, but I do just want to add, because obviously, Rusty and Michael and all of that whole family, I think, are main blame.
Right.
And I think they should have been trialed and locked up for at least some sort of time, especially Michael. He needed to be locked up, not even just for her, but for the acts that I don't know, he's a horrible person. But the thing was that because some said that he was the main responsibility for the deaths due to certain teachings,
Right.
which apparently were found in his newsletter titled The Perilous Times, which is what they all read on occasion when they would meet up and stuff.
Yeah.
But they both rejected the accusations, of course, because, save your own asses. But he maintained that, like, they were not as close as they were told that they were close, which is a bullshit lie, because they would have lunches and dinners together. He literally sold him his van home, his RV, technically. And they were over with the family all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they basically just kind of were like, nah, we didn't have anything to do with that. We weren't even that close with them. So
Exactly.
that's out of our hands.
Yeah.
She told her jail psychiatrist, it was the seventh deadly sin. My children weren't righteous. They stumbled because I was evil, the way I was raising them. They could never be saved. They were doomed to perish in the fires of hell. So it was the seven deadly sins, but it was the seventh one that she wasn't able to uphold. Yeah, she considered killing her children for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years she fought that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she claimed she was not a good mother. When I don't know her, and I don't know what she was like as a mother, but I have a feeling there was statements above that said that witnesses claimed that she was an amazing mother.
Right.
Very attentive.
I mean, she homeschooled her kids. She did everything for them. That was her kids were her life.
Yeah, because that's all she had, because everything else was controlled by her husband.
Right.
So that's the one thing that she had. Mm-hmm. And then that's why when she felt like she failed, it was probably the biggest fail of her life,
because that was what her life consisted of.
That was her
life.
Job.
Yeah, exactly.
And she failed them.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Rusty Crusty.
Yeah.
He filed for divorce in August 2004. It was granted in 2005, March 17th. But then he began dating a girl named Laura Arnold, who I think she had a kid already. Mm-hmm. And then they had a son because they got married.
Yeah, they got married on March 25th of 2006, and they had one son.
Yeah.
She divorced him.
Yeah, she divorced him in 2015. I'm like, okay, but why did you even get with him in the first place? Did you not see what he was doing to his other wife?
Right. Maybe she experienced that too.
Probably, but she actually got out before, he created too much for her.
Yeah.
But he stated, because an interviewer said, like, is it hard sometimes being around those kids when thinking of your firstborns? And he's like, yeah, it is sometimes. He's like, some things that my eldest son does is very close to what my first son, but like he like dismisses them completely.
Like they don't exist.
It's really weird. Like he got like a new, better replacement family that didn't have a psychotic mom and didn't have 5 dead children. It was just, I hate
It's almost like he's just trying to remove himself from that situation. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you can do that, but at the same time, it's like, those were your babies.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't protect them like you should have. Right. Because, well, yes, she waited for you to leave. You weren't even supposed to leave until there was someone already there, because you were already leaving them behind. And he would leave
in intervals that are...
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. He was a nasty man from the minute he laid eyes on her.
Yeah. He wanted one thing, and he got that thing.
Yeah, he did. I don't know. I truly despise that man.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think that wraps it up for the case of Andrea Yates.
Yep. The last episode of our painting, that'll be up on Spotify. But yeah, no, so that should be out the week that this is coming out, later in the week.
Yes. But don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes. Press the notification button so you know when we upload a new episode. Again, social media, if you want to find funny moments that we don't post like during our episode here.
Follow us on TikTok.
I say TikTok is our main account that we post on.
Yeah, go check us out on there.
Yep.
And see very unscripted moments.
Yes, bloopers, deleted scenes.
Yeah,
I'm talking like it's a freaking movie, but
I
it's
know.
not. But it is kind of deleted scenes sometimes.
It
'Cause
is
they don't
because
get.
there's things we can't say in here.
Yes. But yeah, no. And then we have some really exciting cases coming up.
Yeah. But stay safe, stay happy, and we will see you next time. Deuces!